Yeah, as Jasmine and Jim summed up, Federal Resources Energy Minister Martin Ferguson has decided that Muckaty is the designated spot, the site for the National Radioactive Waste Dump. This is in the Northern Territory and it's 120 kilometres north of Tennant Creek. Now, this decision is a politically based decision. It's not based on science, environmental or ethical considerations. It's another example of exploiting an already disenfranchised and a minority group in our society. So, in effect, just like the Iriti Wanti campaign, which was a campaign against a radioactive waste dump that was proposed back in the late 90s, and we successfully won that in 2004, the senior women elder Coober Pedy women from Coober Pedy, they opposed that waste dump, and with the support now to get behind the people from Muckaty up in the Northern Territory, we support them. It's highly contested, and it was a deal that was shrouded in secrecy and under an act that was a really heavy-handed, draconian act that overrides all these laws that when Labor was in opposition, they denounced, and they said they'd repeal this Commonwealth radioactive waste dump that pretty much meant that they could just impose this waste dump on a community unwillingly without any consensus, any transparency, and the Labor government said that they would make this a fair process. It's not a fair process, and we have people flying up to Tennant Creek to support the Muckaty mob up there and the growing campaign to oppose this radioactive waste dump because it is, unfortunately, to use a hackneyed term, the thin edge of the wedge, because the nuclear power industry do not want to take responsibility for their long-lived, high-level radioactive waste. And indeed, it's a very hard task, and the only way for safe storage, which is an oxymoronic term as well, is recognised and acknowledged through the International Atomic Energy Agency and other affiliated bodies. The only safe way to store it as such is on-site, at the site point of production, where you have the security measures and the scientific expertise to be able to deal with something that's been created that is so long-lived that it's up to 500,000 years some of these isotopes are dangerous for. So we've got a couple of events coming up through the Anti-Nuclear and Clean Energy Collective, and it's really good to network with all of you mob out here because it's all the same campaign. So on the 12th of April at 11 a.m. we're going to be meeting at Parliament House. It's a national day of action against the radioactive waste dump, and we're going to be walking to Fed Square and we're going to be having a theatrical announcement of the new radioactive waste dump site, which is in Martin Ferguson's backyard and not in Muckaty's. So we want to bring that point home. It's not acceptable, it's not international world's best practice for a remote dump site. It's not. And Yucca Mountain is a case in point in Nevada, in the US, that there's been a waste dump proposal there for 20 years, and billions of dollars has gone into this geological site that was supposed to be a simple process, and Barack Obama has just come out and said it's not going to happen because it's not suitable. And also coming up, we have on the 21st of April a public meeting at Northcote Town Hall and an exhibition from mob up there in that country, north of Tennant Creek, and hopefully we're going to be having some traditional custodians coming down and speaking. So that's always a very powerful thing to be able to hear it directly from that mob. And if we stand strong, we can win this campaign, and it's a really important part of the nuclear chain, because if we make it hard for them to not just be able to dump their waste in a remote site, then it forces them to consider minimising creating the waste in the first place, and it's just not a smart option. It's definitely not a clean, green solution to climate change. And like the other speakers have mentioned, it's propaganda. They have a huge capacity to propagate their fallacious facts about the nuclear industry, and we've got to do all we can to combat that. So thanks for that, and I'll pass on to the next speaker.